All right, recording has been started. Welcome everybody to the Sunday night call. Tonight we've got Talon is giving us a talk tonight on training, and Riley, is that right, Riley? You're the one that's leading it. I already forgot who raised their hand earlier. Riley's going to lead our conversation tonight. Riley, how do you want to handle questions? Do you want people to interrupt you? Do you want to hold them till the end? What do you want to do?
I would like people to hold them until the end.
Okay. And then also, this came up 2 weeks ago too, but if the conversation following the presentation strays too far off topic, that's up to you to bring it back. So I'm going to leave how far you want us to go off topic up to you. And I don't have any other announcements. So Riley, the floor is yours.
All right. I will start presenting.
Also, Riley, I left a message saying I would do this.
Yeah, I would like to just run the presentation.
Sure.
As I did it. Yeah. Here we go. Oh no. Bonnie, could you share your screen?
Of course. Quick introduction to me. My name is Vani Dung, and I'm one of the business captains on Talon, and this is my first year captaining. So if you haven't seen me around, this is our introduction. Okay.
Thank you, Vani. My name is Riley Lamont. I am one of the engineering captains on Talon. My screen share is not working, so thank you, Vani, for handling that.
That's okay. All right,
yeah.
Okay, we prepared Ali Lamont, Riley's sister, graciously prepared this presentation for us. And it's not really a set thing, but please, like Riley said, hold questions until the end. So yeah. Okay. This is today's agenda and contents that we've prepared. First, just a brief introduction to our team. I'm sure many other people already kind of know our basic history and all that, but it's just a brief introduction to those who aren't familiar. 2 is how we've done training in the past. I believe that I can say something for business, and Ellie can, and Riley can say things for build. And number 3 is how we're doing training this year, just the new and revamped versions of how we're doing trainings for sub teams and all that. And last thing we'll be talking about is just discussion time, to share ideas, suggestions, questions, and all that good stuff. Okay, this is our introduction to our current structure of Talon. We're a 17-year-old team started in 2007 at Eden Prairie High School. We mentor FTC and FLL, so our high school members will mentor their own FLL and FTC teams. Currently, we have around 50 members. It's actually going to be around 60 plus for the new season, and a fluctuating 20 mentors on our team. And we're student-led. So obviously there's several captains and sub-teams are student-led as well, but they also have mentor leads that will guide us and just be there. Just at the very top, there's Ellie, who's on this call. Hi, Ellie.
We don't need to go over this whole thing.
I don't have to go through this whole thing, but yeah. I mean, yeah, captains, head mentor, and like I said, there's mentor leads and we're business the student leads for all our sub teams, and you can see all our sub teams. Right, like Riley said, I won't go through every single one. That would take forever. But yeah,
can you share a bit on how we talk about the whole student-led thing? Ellie, can you share a bit on how we do the whole student-led thing?
Absolutely. So our old head mentor, Ian Goodson, who some of you might know, coined the term student-led and mentor-guided. Essentially what that means is that we really let the students drive what Talon does, and our mentors take a hands-off approach. This really lets our students get the full experience of running and leading events and kind of being like, okay, we're here to run the business, and the mentors really support them. I was a student on the team from 2014 to 2017, and I know I would not be anywhere as successful as I am in my adult life without the experience I got on Talon. So we're trying to continue that. and give our students the opportunities to develop those leadership skills, self-advocacy, and making sure they have the communication skills to work and lead a team.
We generally have compared to our general mentor base, we have a very weak technical mentor base. So we end up with our mentors don't have access to our CAD, as just a general example. One of them technically does, but I don't think he's ever opened it. And then one other thing I'd like to add to this slide is our FTC pipeline is massive. Around half of our new members come in through our FTC program, which is, this year it is 5 teams. Last year it was 6, and the year before it was 6 teams of 10, which was definitely too many. We got there eventually.
Yep. Okay.
Next slide, please.
Okay. Our previous training methods. I believe the next slides are going to be build oriented.
So this is just a couple of examples of slides from our presentations. We'll go more into exactly how this all works, but I just wanted to give you guys a nice visual. It is visual. Thank you. Next slide, please. So, that's on. Okay, the last slide is in the wrong place. That's unfortunate.
Okay.
So, sub-team meetings were the bulk of training. They were an hour long. They were typically once a week, though some sub-teams went less. And they were, on the business side, they were for working on sub-team projects, so like applying for grants. Or on the build side, they would be for training. These were supplemented by off-season open rooms that were 3 hours long. They were directly after school, once a week, and they were done to work on build projects like the demo bot. So this was definitely a system. We made a lot of progress on off-season projects. The demo bot came far closer than it's ever been to being a thing, but not quite there. And it kept pressure off of our relatively new leads. Again, we have a lot of leads, and so they necessarily have to be generally underclassmen that have only had about a year of experience on the team. However, the 1 hour meetings were just far too short to effectively train, at least on the build side. So people just came out of the meetings knowing very little. I was the design lead. We got so little done that I had a very hard time remembering when my meetings were. Then new members have very little project ownership. A lot of people will say burnout is just putting too much time in. It is very clearly not. A lot of the time we saw burnout with new members, where they just came in from FTC expecting building their robot and ended up building somebody else's robot. And that difference in expectations led to several people quitting. And then a lot of meetings just lacked attendance. I think a fairly good meeting had 3 people going to it on design. It wasn't great. So for our 2024 to 2025 training methods, so training month and mini trials was the general structure. We supplemented it with some training over the summer, which was just trying to keep momentum. But those were just like once a week. And they were structured similarly to the training month trainings. The training month trainings were the bulk of this. These took place over the course of September. They were 2 to 3 hours long, typically directly after school, and had the first half being lecture and some second half being students doing projects based on that. As a general example, I had a lecture on robot structure, like tubing, gussets, bolts, etc., etc. And that was followed by a project of your rollers are in these positions. Create a structure to connect all of them. This is going to be followed by mini trials. We have 3 mini trials teams. That's new this year. We have open room 3 days a week for 3 hours direct after school. Next slide, please. So this, well, this led to our, Ronnie, you can go back. Yeah. Oh dear. Okay, this led to our new members being much better trained. I'd like the pros and cons slide. That'd be great. Pros and cons slide, ideally. Thank you. This led our new members to be much better trained as compared to based on the meeting system. And that's just as measured by reports from the leads. And new members do appear to be retaining the information that they learned very well. Unfortunately, the training month schedule was far too dense to run everything in one month, so we had to overlap with our other off-season programs, most notably our FTC program, which a lot of our core members that were coming up from the FTC program were themselves mentoring the FTC program because we can't find enough support for the kids otherwise. So we had to schedule a couple of trainings on top of that, which lost a lot of core attendees. This led to our mini trials members not being trained enough in design and CAD to design robots, which is something that we are currently trying to solve. And then the last thing is the 3-hour time slot is very hard to fill, especially for the new leads. With that all said, I know we have a couple of our members here. If you would all have anything to add to the pros or cons from the training month.
Rishi, I know you're on this call. You don't have to say anything out loud. You can put it in the chat too, but we would love to have some opinions from non-captain members.
So we have a few of our leads as well as a few of our members who went through the training, just to kind of give some perspective from those who are both running these training sessions and how they feel like they can, or how successful they feel they were. While Rishi types, Allie or Charlotte, would you guys be willing to talk about how your days went?
Yes, Charlotte.
Sure. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm this year's fundraising lead, and I would say our training went pretty well. A lot of new members came into the sub team, which was nice. I know last year, I think we had 2 people in the sub team, and there were about 12 people that came to the training, so that was really beneficial.
Allie, do you want to add something? Sorry, Allie, I interrupted you when you were going to say something.
It's okay. I'm Allie. I'm the scouting and strategy lead this year on Talon. Which meant that I was on the cons list as I was running strategic design trainings, which overlapped with the FTC program, which meant that our members weren't super trained on design and CAD. However, I do think this training system was overall quite a success. The people who were able to attend the trainings learned a lot and got a lot out of this system, and I would really recommend it overall.
Okay.
We'll wait a bit for Rishi to finish.
Yeah, sure.
We have John. You can give your perspective. I filled in for marketing, as we have some new marketing mentors as well. And I think it was really cool just to see the students sit down and be like, okay, how do I get everyone able to participate in the sub team, understand what the core is, and let's have some practice, or let's do something fun to be like, oh, hey, yeah, I know marketing is a lot of just sending emails and filling out grants, and that's not always the most exciting thing to do in robotics, especially when the next day you're having a CAD training or electrical. So seeing this students come up with fun little team builder activities to get everyone engaged and make sure that they're like, hey, yeah, this is an important part of the sub team and robotics, even though it might not be the most exciting. And seeing them generate that interest was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read out Rishi's comment for the recording. Rishi is a freshman on our team. He went through the FTC program, and he is one of our FTC mentors. Quote, I agree with the points on screen right now. A point not mentioned is that throughout training month, a lot of the new members, including myself, got to meet with the members of the team, and now even if we don't remember something, most of the freshmen are comfortable asking, which is a very good point. It does help to start with a formal training, as compared to like a sub-team meeting where you are going straight into the work because it isn't necessarily the first thing. And yeah, people asking questions is always hard. So the most we can do for that, the better. Next slide, please. Before we move into our discussion section, does anybody have any questions for us about what we just talked about?
Or I know we actually went past a slide that had like sub-team presentations, and that felt more business oriented. So we can cut back on that slide and talk before we go straight into discussions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay, these are some of the training month presentations that our own sub-team leads created and used during their meetings, their trainings. From quite in order is from the left, top left is media, inclusivity, I'm pretty sure design and strategy, and then electrical and fundraising. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But basically just letting our sub-team leads have complete like reign over what they want to introduce upcoming new members on our team to straight away. For example, like marketing, which handles a lot of grants and sponsorships and stuff like that, would really help people know that you can lead like demos and stuff on their own and just help overall in a team with grants. So it's distinctions like that that sub team leads have full reign to introduce to our newer members. And yeah, I'm sure we also have like some leads on the call that can talk more about this, but it was very great, at least from my experience on the business side, to see this because a lot of newer members that wanted to come in and experience things more build oriented, like I don't know, like building and like working on the mini trial robots and stuff, they had a chance to kind of see like what business sub teams handle and also get into it on their own, like helping lead team builders and stuff like that, which in essential in its essentialness, like leading an event for our team is creating a sign up and helping mentors and other people get stuff ready for team builders and stuff like that. And that's all I really have to say, so we can just go straight into discussion. And we have like some topics made ready straight away. Oh, we had a hand up. Are we gonna? Yeah. Okay. My screen's tiny, but
Yeah, Ben, your question.
Yeah, so you said to ask any questions. So I saw on a back slide further back, you said like you're doing training 5 days a week. Is that just like one, you have like basically just one subject you're training, or are you running concurrent sessions at the same time?
No, so our trainings, so Vonnie, can you find that slide with the schedule?
yeah, the calendar, yeah.
Is running their training. There is only one training going on at a time. If somebody wanted to attend every single one of these trainings, I'm pretty sure they could. People just go on the days that have the things they're interested in.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And because each of the sub teams have their own mentors, from the mentor's perspective, we were really able to kind of spread the wealth. So it wasn't one mentor coming in 5 days a week for 3 hours, and everyone was able to go and support their sub team, kind of get that situated. So a lot of them had either one meeting a week or one meeting that month to support.
Yeah, super easy to keep adults in the room.
Yes. Okay. And then if no other questions come up during this, and we're just going to straight into the discussion then, which is pretty much free reign. A similar question from the beginning, Riley, do you want to have people like just jump in? Is that all right for everyone?
So for this part, discussion is going to be a free form.
All right. Okay.
I'll be moderating to make sure it stays on topic since we
Okay.
have several topics for the next slides. But
Yeah.
all right. So the first one is design and CAD training. I have several prompts here. So how do you get students interested? How do you teach them how to use your CAD program? So like drawing shapes, making assemblies. How do you teach new students how to design a part from the ground up? This is typically our hardest thing, is once a student knows how to make shapes and put shapes together, how do they figure out how you make a part? Where do you start for that? And then how do you teach new students strategic design? I will start. So interest, we don't do a ton. Typically, people are more or less interested enough once they know what the subteam does. Teaching our CAD program, we typically do. So the very basics of drawing shapes, we have people making parts from drawings. After that, we have projects during our next things, which are how do you teach students how to design a part from the ground up? That is from our build system series, where so we talk about something like robot structure and talk about what a tube is, what a gusset is, what a plate is, what a standoff is, and have a project that is dedicated to show the student how they use all of those things. And then how do we teach new students strategic design? Allie, do you have anything to say for this one?
My training was dedicated to this, so in order to teach it, we did we just did a series of 3 trainings, 3 hours each, where we showed examples of successful strategic design, just repeated over and over golden rules of strategic design, and then had students work on designing robot ideas that just showed those golden rules of design. I think it turned out okay.
The golden rules are from 1678 Strategic Design Workshop, and Karthik of Symbotics is whatever it's called, Effective First Strategies presentation.
I know we used a similar strategic design conversation this year with FTC. And one of the activities was, if you can design a better robot than the high school students using these rules, and the kids who were listening in the presentation did take it to heart, because Riley did end up bringing candy in for all the FTC kids, because the high schoolers who weren't paying attention to the presentation, who are admittedly our freshmen coming in and we're just building a robot how they normally do, ended up making kind of an overcomplicated design, where the middle school students, because that's just how we do FTC in our area, really took the trainings to heart. And even when they were officially designated on teams, they're like, okay, we have to take Riley's lessons and use them. So it was really cool to kind of see that philosophy start in FTC, so it will grow and become just a big culture change of robotics.
We have a team that got a robot done in 3 weeks or something in FTC, which was absolutely crazy. Well, anybody have answers to any of these questions? Ben, you can go for it.
They're all really good questions. This year, our students asked the mentors to take over a lot of the training. So last year, Isaac basically did a series of presentations and some basic learning how to design things in Onshape and how to use MKCAD and how to build assemblies. This year, we tried to use the FRC design.org. That was developed by a few different teams. I don't remember which ones.
It was just I think there were 30 teams.
Yeah. and we basically only had one day at this because we don't start at the beginning of September. We start like basically the middle. And by the time we get to training, then all of a sudden we had MRI and mini trials coming up. So we've only actually done one, but I guess I'm finding that it maybe isn't what it was advertised. It seemed to be difficult to get kids to get beginning kids to get started in it. So I guess for a reference, we're using Onshape. We do have quite a few kids that seem to be interested in CAD, but I'm not sure that this is the way we did it was the way that we should have done it.
Yeah, FRCdesign.org is not an introduction to CAD. We also made that mistake. I recommended it to a couple of kids who missed the FRC, kids who missed our design presentations or the summer trainings, and they could not get through anything. I think it'll be great after a couple of presentations of our own or something, but
in our research too, so we kind of went through our training month and we got 2 mini trials, and we started with mini trials right away, and we're like, okay, cool. So they have the concepts and kind of know what they want their robot to look like, but it's like, okay, but you can't just put a motor in that hole without connecting it to anything, because that doesn't actually work in the real world.
you can't make that part. What are you making it out of? What are you making it on? Yep.
But the team 3005 RoboChargers actually does have an Onshape like CAD class, and it's like lots of videos and presentations. So I will link that here as well. This is something we found Wednesday of last week. So we haven't dived into it, but it does, at least from an overview, look like a really cool source. So I'll link that so people have access to it as well.
It also looks really long.
So how many hours of CAD training do your students get before you set them loose usually?
I can't give you a number. It'll depend way too much student to student.
That's fair.
We had 6 3-hour trainings over the course of the summer and 3 over the course of the training month. So about that many hours before mini trials, but not everybody's going to have attended all of those. So,
Well, I have a question about your summer training. So how many new students do you typically, like what percentage of your new students are usually part of the summer program?
Generally, the core students coming from FDC were the people we were expecting to be CADing anyway. But so like half, maybe like a quarter.
And I think you've already said this, but how many times did you meet during the summer? Was it once a week, twice a week?
It was once a week, but there were a lot of things that got in the way of that, so we ended up running 6 design trainings.
Okay.
I'll post the trainings in the drive.
Yes, 8878 just raised their hand.
Hey, maybe you already answered this. Sorry, I'm kind of multitasking here, but for your CAD and design trainings, is that just for in-house, or, and if so, do you guys do in person, or is it something that you do virtually?
Fully in person.
So if there was a team who needed some CAD help, is that something, if they coordinated with you, can they log in virtually, or is that something that's logistically?
Yeah, we did have options for people to attend things virtually. We didn't want to run things virtually because a lot of the design stuff,
yeah,
historically was run virtually, and it just did not work. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
think one of the benefits we learned for having it in person, it was a lot easier for the students to get more comfortable asking questions and be a little bit more inquisitive, whereas a lot of our old design meetings were held through Discord um, on like a Friday at 5 p.m. So there was a lot of factors going into why those meetings weren't well attended. But even just the switch from this year and having those conversations, and a lot of it will be, okay, you're going to do this. And then the kids usually pile together and they'll end up working on one computer and all putting their heads together to figure out how to make the same thing that Riley did.
John. John, you raised your hand.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, Josie, hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Yeah, my dad and I are together.
Yes.
But to add to Ellie's point is, since a lot of our kids are FTC kids, they also know each other. So like if they're in person, they're willing to like whisper to each other, like, how do I do this and that stuff. And then also it kind of gives the person teaching the training, like, you know, who needs more help, but it also, so it gets them more comfortable like talking to each other as well in that way.
They're also just so much more well attended in person. You can go ahead, Aerobot.
No, the reason I asked the question is because I was asking in terms of I have a few students on my team that have an interest in learning CAD. I'm not able to teach them that stuff, and I was just looking for different ways I can provide them with the resource that I don't have. That's why I ask.
Where's your team located?
Ashby, Minnesota, between Alexandria and Fergus Falls.
Okay. There might be, I mean, I'm sure we'd be down to do it. Riley is our resident CAD expert on the team. Kind of did a deep dive on his own and is now the person who teaches everybody. So if it would be something that is useful, since we've kind of learned from our mistakes of like, how do you make something online effective? We're trying to make our team more accessible as a whole, because we have a good mentor base, but it's like they can't always come to meetings, and how do we kind of let it be accessible? So we're kind of working on those things. So it might be something that like, hey, we can kind of go over some of the things with teams, or I'm sure, I know KnightKrawlers is fantastic as well. Maybe we need to do some sessions where they meet with your students, and we can try to create a program that is more virtually specific to help with that.
Thank you.
All right, we can discuss that more if we've got time later. In the meantime, can we get the next slide, please? All right, so on programming, how do you teach kids programming concepts? How do you teach them your language of choice? And how do you teach them how to use robotics libraries like Lipulib, since those are so very different from programming Java in general? I am not a programmer. I know programming. I attend several programming things, but I am not going to speak on this because I don't really have the experience to talk for our programmers. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, so I think that for our team, it's really the see one, do one, teach one sort of thing at a very small scale. We have a smaller team, and one of our we did mini trials the last couple of years, but for various reasons it didn't work well for our team for training, particularly for the newer students, just the way we organized it. And so this year, one of our assistant coach came up with some projects. One of the purposes, and Lily, you can jump in if you want to add to this. Lily is one of our programming co-captains, and she's here on the call. But our assistant coach came up with the idea of just doing some mini projects throughout the fall where everybody would have to be involved with each other, and so the teams weren't siloed. So, for example, the first project she came up with, which she was like, well, we could maybe do 3 of these during the course of the fall. I'm not sure we'll get to that, but the first one was a tennis ball shooter. So to shoot a tennis ball into a trash can that's 6 feet away, what do you need? You need obviously you need to build, you need to CAD some parts. The idea being CADing the parts out of wood or acrylic or something that would be simple and quick to cut, and there could be a lot of iterations. Um, and the programmers would the veteran programmers would teach the new programmers how to program motors and how to program to shoot. And the people at NoCAD would sit down with new people and show them how they CAD, starting from the very beginning. The mentor helped at the beginning, and then the students who knew a student who knew CAD taught another student or two how to CAD some of the side parts, and then the veteran build people were meeting with the rookies, and they were all working on different prototypes and different wheel spacing and how do we test wheel spacing. So it's not just programming training, but all of the training was sort of see one, do one, teach one, with everybody having to work together. It's all going to have to come together eventually for this one project. And I think, Lily, you are in the process of teaching the programming. You are teaching about or you're going to be teaching about the libraries and all of that sort of stuff. And you can go ahead and take it from there and talk about that if you want to, if that's okay. I mean, I'm not running the meeting, but
Yes,
Okay.
well, you can go ahead.
So what we did was like I coded the code for our tennis ball shooter project, and what I'm doing right now is basically we have this TV that we can kind of hook our code up to, and then what we had was make our programmers make their own individual branches of on GitHub so that they can store their code, and then they can like copy the code that I programmed before, and then while they're coding off of what I wrote, we basically explain every single concept that's on there, and we explain what a class is and like really basic programming stuff. And I think it's been working really well. And if anyone has any questions, they tend to ask. And it just makes programming like really fun because, well, we sometimes get off topic, but we get back on topic all the time. And it's really fun because we can like get to know each individual member of our team as well as learn our programming concepts. So it's pretty great.
I just want to say that Lily has really stepped up this year and is doing a great job. She and her co-leader are doing a great job leading that and teaching the students, and it's really fun to watch them.
That sounds like an excellent way of teaching the code, and I'm glad to hear that it's doing lots. One thing that we did with figuring out our language of choice, if you guys kind of look at the FRC network, I know John has talked about what language we use, and we have recently switched over to Rust. And we ended up having like a big discussion on whether that was the right move, if we want to stick with it, if we want to switch to Java, and kind of did like a good big pros conversation. And it kind of got everyone on board and being like, yeah, we're making the right move, and kind of making sure everyone had weight in that discussion to make sure that they're like, okay, no, have my buy-in, I'm committed to this, like let's learn it and let's do this together, which was, I think, a good way of having that conversation about switching languages.
I believe somebody had raised their hand.
I raised my hand. Mason from 2052, I think I saw you on the call. I'm happy to talk about what programming for KnightKrawler does, since I help that group. But if a student wants to go first, Mason is not a captain. He's a student, but he's on our programming team. Mason, are you there and willing to chat?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here.
You want to give us a kind of an overview of your perspective of how training works for KnightKrawler?
Sure. Yeah. So the first main thing that we do is Codecademy, and that kind of is the first thing that they do, and they learn all about just the basics, variables, classes, all that stuff. And so that's where they learn their core stuff. It's kind of solo, which could be changed, but I think it's pretty good because it's all these individual lessons, and you have to like get it right multiple times in a row, and you like actually build the skills. And then after that, you learn about Git, which is pretty important. And after Git, you learn basically It's not required, but one thing that we had last year that was really great was, so we made like a template robot and we just gave like a drivetrain and things, and then we put in like bugs, just like keywords in the wrong places and stuff like that, and then the students having to go through and like figure out why this keyword doesn't make sense here and like why this code doesn't make sense and won't run. That was beneficial to us because they really figured out like what's doing what, and yeah, developed your skills a lot.
Something else that we have been planning towards for a number of years and have struggled to get up and running is building training robots. So I happen to have this on my desk, so it's a good time to bring it up. So 2 or 3 years ago, we bought the Pololu robot board. So it looks like this, and you put a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4 or 5 on top of it. And it allows you to write WPI lib code the same way you'd write robot code. The problem we have found with the Rami board by Pololu was that there was a release and then it was never updated again. But we built Hungry Hippo robots, basically just a robot with a hippo head that would go around and grab a ball and then drive it across the screen. And we could not keep it running for more than 30 seconds or so. It would brown out, it would disconnect. We have 5 of these, and sometimes the Wi-Fi would never show up. You could never connect to the robot. And we had lots and lots of issues with it, and it seemed like we were a little concerned that support wasn't there, or wasn't going to be there going forward, and we were just having a lot of problems with it. So this year, we have bought the XRP platform, which I know was showcased at Champs last year. Dean came and held one up and talked about it. But what we found with both the Rami robot and the XRP robot is the chassis is not very conducive to to making projects available so that all of your students can just CAD up robot mechanisms. So last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I made this robot chassis that's all 3D printed parts, and it drives with a single motor, but it's geared so front wheels and back wheels all run, and it's full of mounting holes everywhere. And then this is what the backside looks like. We take the XRP red motors that have encoders on them, and then the XRP board, and just mount them on the bottom. We're hoping to build a training platform that uses these golf ball wiffle balls and make a game out of it, and leverage our CADing students to design mechanisms that can move the ball from one side of the field to the other, perhaps even pick it up and shoot it. And then that would give us hopefully a variety of mechanisms that our programming students would learn how to code. With platforms this size, the training is pretty restrictive. You can either make a motor go forwards or backwards, or you can make a servo open and close. So it's not nearly as comprehensive as if you were doing 3 or 4 mini trial robots and you actually had robot chassis, but much more cost effective. I mean, I think we're talking about maybe $60-$70 in both parts and filament to make this chassis. So we're hopeful, and we're gonna see what we can do. We have this actually on our schedule to do XRP training starting the last week of October to teach subsystems and commands in the WPI lib style of writing code. So we'll see. It's been a struggle. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been a real struggle to use these small form factor robots that are intended to work for training as actual training. And because most of the robots, the Rami included, and now this XRP, pretty much the only thing your robot can do is drive. And when you create the sample project for the XRP and for the Rami, you have a fully capable drivetrain ready to go. There's no code to make. It's already done for you. So unless you make custom mechanisms, in my opinion, it's almost useless as a training platform. And it's not a simple thing to do to create mechanisms that behave like FRC mechanisms behave. It takes a lot of time and effort to design, 3D print, test, and build curriculum around it.
Well, anybody else have something to speak on for programming before we move on?
Josie, you're one of our programming mentors, new programming mentor this year. Do you have anything like either in response to that or just something you want to add to the conversation?
I don't think I have anything. Again, I'm like new to the programming mentoring, but also like I don't really know anything about our programming yet. So, but I do like the idea of Code Academy. So I was kind of looking at it, but yeah, something to teach basics. I think one of our big struggles that our team ran into is also that our school teaches Java, and then since we transitioned to Rust, it's not what the kids are learning like at school. So we have to do a little bit more training for it than we would if we did Java.
Yeah,
And
we never really had people coming in with knowledge of Java from the school. And
That's
even
true.
kids that did never knew how to write robot code because what people is so different.
yes, yeah.
Lily, you had something to say?
Yeah, so for what we kind of do at 3926, we used to like tell people to do Code Academy, but a lot of people didn't really actively want to do Code Academy. So what we do now is just offer some coding resources if you want to learn code outside of lab hours. But what we're doing this year, I find is very helpful because having like someone in person, like go step by step through every single like line of code with you and teach you like what everything in the code does is so much more helpful than just doing Code Academy alone, which is what we do. So I guess Code Academy is quite helpful for like reinforcing what you learn during lab hours, which I love Code Academy actually. It helped me learn like the key concepts of Java very well because we use Java. And another thing that we do here on 3926 was that we had like older members that are like more experienced comment on the code that we made. So as they're commenting, we ask them questions about like what does this do, and then if they don't know, like I'll explain it again. But most of it's like a good refresher for team members who have already had some experience coding on the team.
Before you go, I'm going to read out what Rishi said in the chat. One thing we did this year that was beneficial was that at the last of the 3 programming meetings we gave, these are the programming trainings, the new members took one of our older robots without any code and then programmed the entire drivetrain and shooter functionality. So this was guided by more experienced members, and it helped the members apply the code topics throughout the training. This was our 2013 robot. It had, I think it has a grand total of 7 motors on it.
A 2013 robot? So did you replace the entire control system with a modern control system then?
At some point we did.
Okay.
We replaced it in 2016 because it was our demo robot from basically 2013. I think we still use it for demos, but
I think we still have the control system from 2016 on it, but
yeah, it's a little old.
But still Rover 1. I mean, right? So, and are you running CAN or PWM motors on that then? Probably PWM way back then.
No, that one's on CAN.
Oh, it is in CAN. Excellent. I raised my hand because I want to make a point on Code Academy. We don't have our students go through the entire Code Academy training for Java. We have them finish the lesson up to classes. And at that point, we say, okay, stop there. Now we're going to teach you robot code. So we use Code Academy truly for the basics, the control statements, if variables, classes. I'm sure there's a few other things in there that are pretty basic type things, but we don't send people through the entire Code Academy training because at some point there's just a lot of concepts in there that really don't apply to robot code. And Riley, you made a very good point that I want to echo, is that when we get kids, they've already had, by the time a kid would learn Java in school, they've probably already had 2 years of writing robot code. And so choosing a language based on what the school teaches isn't necessarily the best choice for the team. It might be the best choice for the student, because then they get basically a free A once they get to programming class. We've seen a lot of our programmers take programming class and they finish all of their coursework in record time, and then they play around and write fun code for class. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. If you're expecting the school to teach your programmers, you're going to be waiting till they're probably juniors or seniors before they'll get into the AP class for programming.
Charlotte, go for
it. I just realized my mic was muted. Sorry. So one of the things we did over the summer was a program called Girls Who Code. This was really beneficial. We all loved it, and it was a way to get new girls into the coding world. This was about a 10-day program, 1 to 2 hours each, like I said, in the summer. And this basically just taught them basics about coding and got people interested. So if you want something, to get more girls interested, then I would definitely check that out.
Charlotte, can you talk on who was attending that?
Yeah, so 6th through 12th graders, with the majority of them being middle schoolers, I would say. And then I think we had about 10 to 12 members at each meeting, which was really good because none of them were on Talon. So that definitely got a lot more people into Talon that are interested in coding. I know of 3 girls currently that just joined, so that's really cool. Yeah. Does anybody else who is there have anything to add?
The cool thing about that program is that it was run by our girls on the team as well, who taught themselves programming to help lead these classes. And the one that was really spearheading it was an alumni who was like, hey, I really want to do this class. Is it possible to do it? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So it was just kind of a passion project that ended up working out really well. But because of the age ranges we chose, it is also a way, as Charlotte said, if we wanted to bring in some of our new members who didn't know coding too, we could bring them in and kind of give them the basics in a space that might feel a little safer. But also, was it Mason said something that I think I want to try to steal for our team, is the having code and making them look for the bugs specifically. That's brilliant. So Riley, Josie, write that down.
Not a programmer. Mark, you had your hand up?
I did. I'm curious about your transitioning to the programming language Rust. What did you use before and why did you change?
That's not a question for me. I will do my best. So Rust, for those who don't know, is a relatively new programming language. It was developed, I believe, for use in Firefox. It's a much more modern programming language than Java. So we were using Java beforehand. We transitioned to Rust because it is massively faster than Java because of its lack of garbage collection, among other things, and because of its beautiful implementation of async that lets us write robot code that can return to not block the main loop without needing to deal with the jank of command-based. So our robot code is much closer to Rust than most other robot code is to Java, which just makes training. I mean, if you know Rust, you can write robot code for us. If you know Java, you can't write robot code for an FRC team without extensive knowledge of loopy-lib. I'd have to pull up more than that to give you more than that.
I just want to add, we had a couple of kids on our team that were very much spearheading doing Rust. So they basically took all the Java WikiLib libraries and created a wrapper for it to work with Rust. They spent hundreds of hours to do that for us. And that's the only reason why it works as smoothly as it does, because they very much wanted to use Rust, and they spent the time to do that for us. So.
It does help that Rust has features for taking functions out of other languages and binding them. If you want to look at our bindings, then you can go to our GitHub /FRCRS. Anybody else have stuff for programming?
I have one more thing. Ellie, you had mentioned it sounded really fun to have a bug hunter type of program. Something else that we used to do as a core part of our training, a custom Java training that we now make optional, is we give the students a challenge of creating a text adventure game. This used to be part of our core training because our 2016 robot basically had a state machine. And if you don't know what a state machine is, I'll talk about in terms of mechanisms. So with our Stronghold robot, we had to extend an intake out halfway. We had to wait until the ball had rocked into the catapult. We had to fire the catapult. The catapult had to come back down. We had to wait until a sensor detected the catapult was down, and then the intake had to come back in. And so that's a lot of steps that are needed to fire. And then if the driver initiated the firing sequence, but then released the trigger before the robot had actually fired, you then had to get back into a starting state, and you had to do it in the proper order. And so that effectively is a state machine, is what state am I in right now, and how do I either go forward or go back? And it turns out that's very much identical to if you were building a dungeon crawler text adventure game and you were telling your character to go north or go west or open the door, close the door. It's a very similar concept, and that's something that a few, but not all of our students go through, and it teaches variables. So if they have to find a key in the dungeon so they can open the door at the end to get out, you have to have a variable to keep track of the key. You have to have variables to keep track of where am I at. You have to have a rules engine of can you even go north or east or west. And so that is also a fun exercise. It's not a quick or simple exercise, but our programmers that sort of run out of things to do before there's a many trials bot or an old robot to reprogram can spend time doing that. And some of them go crazy and they make super complicated maps and have all their friends play their game. But it is a thing that we've done in the past that has varying success over the years.
All right, I think we will move on to our next slide, which I think Vonnie is not currently here to change the slide, but our next slide is... Oh, you're back. All right. Physical robot training. You can see the questions up there. This would encompass our electrical subteam. The actual robot build we do not have tied to any specific subteam. We had our engineering captains, myself and Timothy, just ran this.
I believe a hand did go up from
We can put it down. Fine.
Yeah.
So what we do on Talon here, we had a singular electrical training where we were teaching crimping, Anderson crimping, and soldering. We didn't do any wire routing. And then we had tools training 3 times, which was just various power tools.
You should talk about the new safety glasses stuff that you guys are doing.
Yes. We had a fun thing. We have a fun thing for that now. That our way of keeping track of who is signed off on what tools and is therefore allowed to use them is you get a colored rubber band to put on your safety glasses, which is very fun. I could go run and get my safety glasses, but I'm not going to. So.
Okay.
Jeremiah, go for it.
So, I am a hobby farmer, middle school science teacher kind of guy. I think it, I build it, I test it, it works. Yeah, doesn't work. Well, go back to the drawing board again. And so 3 years ago, I got myself in this insanity, and I don't know when I want to get myself out of it. So I tend to have a lot of questions for those of you, but so I I'm seeing a problem on my team that I want to address, and it's not like something intentional, a problem that kids are doing something, but like my electrical team, they they are under the mandate for me this year that we are not going to be just throwing matches because our wires got disconnected. I mean, things happen, okay? Things do happen. But if you can't tuck at it and test that to make sure that it's going to work, someone have a 120-pound robot coming at you full speed. Yeah, well, hopefully stand the test of that impact. But also, some of the things I want my kids to really understand this year is the physics behind how your robot work. And you can look at an FRC, wiring, diagram and wire something. But do you understand why the cable from the batteries, so 6 gauge versus the end is, 18 to 22 gauges, how is it, and how do you run cables out of across or when do you run, across versus parallel to each other? And so I try to this weekend just to get because I got two new kids that I had them build a swerve chassis and wire it up, and I intentionally told them to make it a 18 by 18, so you don't really have much room in there. And how do you get all these wires to go to not cross, interference with each other when you turn on a robot? Well, I think I thought I got my message across, but I'm asking here, is there anyone in this forum that have like a presentation that's already made, like the physics of physics 101 for FRC, like wiring and that kind of because I think it would be beneficial for something like that to be like, here we go and study this, come back with questions, and if not, I will ask you questions. And yeah, you can ask me, why can you put one together yourself? Well, I'm a rural, middle school teacher, 5 preps, and I got like 6 new curriculum that was when I made this literally a month ago. So I don't really have much time to even live a normal life. So if anyone got anything out there, please throw it my way, please, because I want them to get this the right way and not just, oh, what? I look at a picture and I, wire something together and it works. And so, yeah, I'm an electrical team person. Now, do you understand?
I know what you're getting at. We don't have anything for that. Sorry.
Our team is starting to get better at wire management. It has always been one of our struggles in the past. I think we have a counter in the room during build season of how many CAN issues that we've had, and we're trying to get that down to 0. We have not managed to do so yet, but we're getting closer and closer. So progress is progress.
Better than last season.
I saw the robot from Becker. What's that team name? Anyway, Becker and their this Crescendo robot. I mean, things were packaged so nicely, tightly. But the issue with some of the packaging that I saw was that if there was any issue, you had to take things apart to get to those cables. As much as you saw very little thing on the exterior, it meant, in my opinion, maybe most likely I'm wrong because they know what they did and they're a really great team. It's like it's like how do you make those things also accessible yet also tucked away so that they're not a problem, robot to robot contact type thing.
We just don't worry about aesthetics.
Oh, my concern is not aesthetic, Riley. My concern is we had a practice match between the Green Machine and St. Cloud. Put it this way, our robot is still fixing some of the damages from that practice match. We lost 2 motor controller Smart Maxes. They literally like broke, and I'm like, oh crap, So that's the kind of, it's not so much about aesthetic, it's more about we really need to win this match, or we need to, make an impression. Not, oh, your robot goes in there, quit, and then you're waiting for it to reboot or do something, or somebody should bump back into it so you can reset your wiring.
One of the best sessions that we've had was actually hosted by Talon. It was after EMCC last year, and it was a session about wiring. Go back and find that on the YouTube from last year. That session about wiring. There were so many tips as part of that talk about how to secure your wiring. I don't remember there being a lot about how to route wiring, but there was a lot of things in there about how to secure your wiring and where to position your motor controllers and things like that. So that's definitely worth going back and listening to a watch if you're struggling with contact, knocking out your electronics or things like that. That was a good talk. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, we got a lot out of that talk. We went from cane errors every other match to 3 total. It also took, work on our part to make everything happen right. But that's where we got almost all of our information.
Lily, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah. So, what 3926 does now? So a bunch of our seniors left, and we don't really have many people doing wiring this year. But so programming kind of took over wiring and stuff as well. So what we've been doing to teach wiring and the physics of the robot, I guess, and how to wire and how wiring works is that we took apart one of our old robots, and we decided to rewire the robot. And while we're rewiring the robot that we just disassembled, we labeled where each wire goes. For example, we had an Ethernet cable, and then we wired one end, the Ethernet switch, and then the other end, the Limelight, for example. So we knew, and then we just labeled. Well, we had the new students label everything, and then we also had to because some of the wires had issues with with on the sides of stuff, and we taught people how to crimp and wire things, I guess. And we also had a mentor help us with that because well, the super experienced people who wired the robot were gone. So it was really helpful for me as well to learn about how to wire better.
Jeremiah, go for it.
So maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, Riley, and please send me to the animal cruelty court. But so anyone here on your team ever talk about Ohm's laws with with kids and talking about resistors and all that technical, because if something starts smoking and you start smelling circuit breakers, why is it that you have those 10 amps fuses at the on your PDB, just those things. Because I mean, what I'm trying to get at essentially is I tell my kids, I'm like, I admire you being on the team since you were in 7th grade and until you graduate, but the experience you're walking with, besides maybe good work ethic and being a good sports and all that, what technical skill you're working with, can you say? I mean, it's not to say, oh, you'll be an expert at this, because obviously you're not, but can you competently describe your role? And as in, I may not get the full picture, but the one that I own out to, I can defend my D plus versus get an A, and I know exactly what that A really is about. That's kind of what I'm trying to get to here.
Well, first, to set a lot of the wire gauge rules based on Ohm's law. I mean, That's why the wires are the size they are, so they won't overheat. So
Yeah. No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, okay, let me take one step back. When I first got into this nightmare called FRC, um, I went through WPI, the website, and I kind of got information overloaded. I got severe ADHD sometimes, and I'm like, holy cow, you know. And so I'm the adult, and I felt like, holy cow. And so, and maybe this is a problem that I will solve eventually for my team, where I will have to find some kind of a break from school and decide to kind of like put some of this information in an order that a kid that is in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade can be like, oh yeah, I can find this palatable. And but yes, first, the guideline is set so that the safety is there. But do they understand where that principle, where they're coming from with what the recipe is made? You can follow this recipe and make a nice cheesecake. But do you know the chemistry behind that? That's kind of,
Yeah, Talon's actually super lucky. So our electrical sub team this year is new. We have someone who is on UPS. John, I don't remember the team number, but she was one of their mechanical leads and is now on our team. She's an electrical engineer. I think she actually has ohms or some other electrical law tattooed on her arm because she just loves it so much. But I know that she is really big on I think she's going to be working on some of that training. The other mentor that we have that's excellent is Eric Schaefer. He's been around the block, and I think he's been mentoring first in some capacity for the last 18 years. So Jeremiah, if you actually want to put your email in the chat, I can connect you because he does a lot with the resistors and helping our team kind of understand some of the basics, and I can get you in touch with those guys and see if they have some advice.
For electrical, we do largely just follow the proverbial recipe. For design, we have a lot of stuff on the physics, but that's not really what you're looking for. So, anybody else have anything to chime in on here? All right, let's move on to the next one. Bonnie, you got this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, last kind of part we're gonna talk about business training more so in how we want to teach students how to talk to potential sponsors, which we know talking to people is hard already enough. Why do I have to talk to an adult that runs a company? That scares me. Yeah. And then how can you teach students to write emails and grant applications? This is more obviously technical and within sub-team meetings, it's a little easier. And this one I added, how do you teach students how to lead events? And again, we use the term leading events in Talon because for certain outreach events or any other kinds like team builders, we have the students take charge and have their own responsibility on it so they can feel more connected and feel that they have a set role in the team other than incoming people not really knowing what to do. We can give them, hey, can you do this job, can you make us on for this event? It's easier for them to become more connected and have an introduction to our team. So does anyone have any responses to any of these questions, or can you share what your team does? Maybe generally on the business side. I know it's a complete 180 from our conversations about wiring and all that good stuff. Yeah, Mark.
Regarding the first two, teaching students how to talk to potential sponsors and write emails and grant applications, we have found that we need adult mentors to guide those sorts of things. And we have one student this year who's returning to the business team. to the operations team who did different things last year. And so she's also being trained in those things from adults. And at the same time, she's helping to train some of the others in what she knows. But we have found, again, that those are the kinds of things that students really need adult guidance, figuring out how to do well.
I can understand completely the adult guidance in one-on-one sponsorship conversations. I do want to say that Talon does things slightly differently because we have these slightly more experienced leads, maybe like our marketing lead. They already have contacts and templates for direct emails with sponsors. And if we're talking in-person conversations, usually it's completely up to the student if they have kind of like the confidence and the knowledge to go up to someone they know, an adult person they know they can talk to about our team. So I completely understand the adult guidance. With our team, our mentors tend to give guidance and then take a back seat because our students have the confidence to lead conversations with sponsorships already. But I completely understand, and that was great to know.
Yeah, our mentors are copied on all communication with adults from different companies, just to make sure that things are kind of aligned and we're kind of watching out for that PII or the youth protection, not PII. But they're also like, if we go to like sponsors companies and things like that, they're there to kind of be there as support, but kind of let the students take the front seat and then step in if they need help from there, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, completely. Jeremiah, you have your hand up too in regards.
So, being relatively new, my kids, we're still building up the confidence, and thanks to Scott, I think when we went to 10 kid our first season, I was exhausted. There was a lot that I didn't know going into this nightmare. And I said these things. I actually love FRC. I don't hate it. If I did, I wouldn't be spending my Sunday evening on this. But you somehow kind of have to, humor it. But I think that first season, good thing they put us right next to KnightKrawler, and it really helped us out a lot to learn to see what I learned that first season was what happened when people come to the pit and just being able to speak on your robot. And I think that year we also had a virtual judges that they call. And so, when I told the kids, I'm like, well, based on what I'm reading here, when they call, I'm just going to flip the camera over to you and you guys are going to talk. But then they did a great job just talking to the judges. But then when it got to the pit, and it's like, some people got tongue-tied and some people were just like looking up to me. And I'm like, okay. So what I learned is that I've told them your involvement with the robot's going to make you confident about speaking about the robot and about this program. And so if you're not very well involved, I'm not taking you anywhere with us, because now when we go to an event and people start walking in, I walk away. I walk away. I leave the pit, because that way you're not looking up to me for the feeling. And one thing I tell them is, you do not tell a lie. If you don't know something, say you don't know. If I heard somewhere that my team told a lie, we are going to have a different ethical discussion. But it's just one of those things where giving them that, heads up, like, we're going to go and question come flying. You, the one that's going to be taking the questions and answer, and I'm not going to be around for you to look up to me if what you're saying is validated or not. For that to be validated, you have to practice it at home. And so this summer, we did a demo, which was really great. Actually, that was the first time we actually did this with one of our sponsors. We went over that lunch break and did a demo, and the sponsors came out and they drove the robot. And then, the kids, they asked the kids question, the kids answered them. When they're ready to look at me, I just deflected it back to them. Like, what did you do? I mean, we were at a company, on presentation, so I wouldn't leave them there and leave the building, but I kind of like sent it back to them, like, what did we do? what's your role? What did you do on this team? That's essentially what they're asking you is they give you money. How did you use that money? And that's what they want to know. And so part of that is just kind of setting them up to say, hey, this is your reality. You don't own up to it now. It's going to catch up with you down the road. I mean, we know expert at it, but it's just, I'm learning that my kids don't have some of them when they're talking, you can be right next to them. You can not even hear them, during practice. They're so loud. I can barely hear myself. And so we kind of going back and use that voice that like, I can't hear you, you know. And so my wife is my assistant, family business, and so she's in charge this this season. On Saturdays, one of the things we discuss is that when you come to practice, if this person is not doing anything that was specifically designed to do, assigned to do at a moment, hold them aside, throw them this question. Hey, tell me about what you've done so far. Tell me about your robot. Tell me about your team. If you can answer those, competently, I think that's kind of like go back to that. And the last thing I'm going to say about the grants writing, that's kind of where most of our sponsorship come in. Is I kind of scout the internet for for application of grant stuff, and that's kind of one of the roles that I haven't really gotten kids involved in. And our plan is to get them because sometimes it just happens when I can fit it into the schedule, But what they've done is that we write letters, and the letters get mailed out. 2 weeks later, we have a transcript that they practice, and they make follow-up phone calls. It's like I'm not gonna say, hey, this. The only time I talk to those people is if they have follow-up questions, then or they want. But you talk to John Deere, you talk to this person, you talk to this, company. If they have any questions that you don't have an answer, then forward them to me, and then I will be able to, you know. But that's kind of how we do stuff on 8878.
Yeah. I think that was a really, I think you're doing everything right, is how I want to start this. And I don't, I think, yeah, for mentors and students, it's a kind of difficult to find your boundary of what can I say, like knowing my own knowledge. And then maybe some students aren't 100% comfortable saying anything, especially if they're newer, maybe without your assistance. But I think you're actually doing everything right because yes, they put in all this work and all this effort, and they essentially do have all the knowledge just working on that robot. So I want to say really quick, because I want to put this over to someone who I think is extroverted and has the confidence and knowledge to talk to sponsors. um, is that Talon does something called talking points, which are really basic things about Talon's history and about first game. So we do that before we travel. We require all the kids that travel to have those memorized, and it has to go past a mentor. They have to have all these information points memorized, because if someone asks them a question about our team, or maybe a relative asks them a question about the game, they should be able to know what they're doing, after school and all this. They should be able to know what they're putting their time, and I'm assuming their family and their sponsors want to know what they're putting their money into. So I think you're doing everything great. I don't even have any um, more suggestions besides what I can share what we do. Um, but I want to pass this to Charlotte, someone on our team, because I'm sure she has great points to add too.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie. So, hi, I talk to a lot of the sponsors and companies. That's something that I like doing. They like to call me the resident extrovert, so that's always fun. But one of the things we like to do is during like events or something like that is just going around to each person that comes to our stand and talking to them about Talon. That's a really good way to just, know everybody, get everybody excited about Talon, and then, of course, if they're interested in sponsoring us, then getting their email. We did this, I think, 2 days ago at the Harvest to Halloween event. We did a demo, and I think we got like 4 or so company contacts that would be interested in sponsoring this just by talking to them. And then another thing that we do for the events is we'll go to each stand. Like each companies have different stands. We'll talk to them, give them a business card, and we'll go from there. So that's always a lot of fun. And does anybody else from Talon have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so what Charlotte was talking about, I don't have an answer to the question, but Charlotte was just talking about I think it was literally yesterday, an outreach event we did at Riley Park in EP was just a family Halloween event. And we did that as a demo within our own community to spread the message of kind of FRC Robotics. And there, I think all of the team members did a great job of going out of their own comfort zone and talking to families, because you never know if one of the parents, like if they actually do run a company and they would be interested in sponsorships and fundraising and stuff like that. It's one of the reasons why we got out of their way to talk to families there. We're not at the demo solely just to run our robot. We have more people there to talk to families and potential sponsors. And we do it, of course, because we want to know if they're interested in STEM, if there's anything we can do for the kid to get into our FEC or FL programs. I think there are two people with their hand up. Lily, you had your hand up first. If you want to go and say something.
Oh, so something that really helped me build my confidence to like talk to people is like going to events like without the team, and it was like really helpful to like do like volunteer work at first events, and it was like really helpful to me because I got to know like robots better, and I also got to know other teams better, and it was just really good to build confidence. But also another thing that our team does is that we have letter writing campaigns, and I don't know if Shapiro wants to talk more about that because I don't know too much about that. But basically what we do is we write letters to family members and like people that we know, and then it was really helpful in learning how to write like persuasive like messages to people, and it was really helpful. And also it taught some people how to write letters because people are forgetting that, and it was just really helpful to raise money as well.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. We don't do that because marketing, we tend to have templates ready. But I didn't That's a great way to have people like kind of know how to do that from scratch and get a more better connection. I think John and Josie, if you want to add something, I think you guys were first.
Yeah. So I'm the finance mentor. So I'm in charge of the money for the team because we don't let the kids be in charge of the money. But basically, if they have like, I think someone had a question about like W-9s and stuff. So like, it's kind of my job to go get that for the students. So the students don't like do that kind of stuff. And I guess I'm kind of doing that like support role where if they have if the sponsors have questions about like money and that stuff that the students can't answer, that's kind of where I come in. And then also, I had one tip on like something that I did to help like talk to people, especially at like events and stuff, was our team had trading cards. So it had like a picture of our robot with some stats about our robot. And I found it very easy as like an introvert that doesn't like talking to people to just be like, do you want a card? Because then it kind of put you in that position where you're knowledgeable, so they can potentially ask you questions, but you're not forcing them to have a conversation and anything. So I found that was helpful because a lot of people will just take a card, but some people will start asking questions, and I feel like that's kind of a good opening to answering that question. So.
Yeah, that's really great to know. And Charlotte I think Charlotte had that question too, so that was good to know on the W-9. And I think, Mark, you also had something to say on this slide.
I was only going to comment on the letter writing campaign. We are a private school, and so a lot of the fundraising is done from families, and the development office is very concerned with us double dipping and asking people to support the robotics team who already support the school and are already paying a large amount of tuition. So we have to be really careful about that. So the kids pick grandparents and other more distant relatives that maybe the school isn't necessarily contacting, and we have to sort of approve that with the development office to make sure we're not stepping on their toes. But the letters they do have templates. The letter is a little template, and it's got a little blurb about the team and then a little space for the kids to write about their own experience. And I think what Lily said about, I don't know if it's really training well, but it does do some training and communication and promoting the team, and it does get them obviously involved. And about 10% of our budget actually comes from sometimes sometimes more comes from that letter writing campaign. But otherwise, I think Lily summarized it pretty well.
10% is really impressive. I know Ellie audibly made a reaction to that too. That's insane. Yeah. Any more points on any of the questions on this slide? And I'm just wondering personally about the third question, because it actually kind of interconnects with the talking to sponsors part, is how do you get students to be more independent and kind of take on events and other things you might do on your team? Because I know starting my first year as a captain was one of our problems, I guess I want to say, we wanted to tackle is how do we get how do we make procrastination as small as possible? I'm forgetting the word, but it's like, how can we get more participation within our team? And one of the answers to that, I guess, was to just have them take responsibility and be more independent on events that are they can start small on, like team builders, like stuff we do for fun as a team, and then they can kind of work up to points where they can feel confident enough to talk to sponsors maybe. And part of that is just leading an event. And I want to know kind of on how other teams do that. And just within your own team, how do you notice that your peers or kind of the students you mentor, how do they start to become more independent within your team? Yeah, Lily, do you have an answer to that?
I used to like not take charge of a lot of things. I used to like be kind of shy and I didn't do a lot. But I don't think you can like force people into like being more involved on the team. I think it's more of like uh individuals like personal growth and like people learning how to be more confident themselves. But something I do know that is if you like listen to people more and like involve members more into your like team and just have like a more welcoming atmosphere, I'm sure people tend to open up more and will do more. Because something that made me more willing to like contribute more to the team was that like previously I haven't felt like I was like super involved because I was like scared of being judged and like not being accepted into like leadership roles, I guess. So something that really helped was having like people on the team like listen to you and help you move along with what you want to do.
I think that's really valid because the whole point, I think, of our program in high school is that we're leading kids in robotics and also for their 4 years in high school where they're obviously developing themselves to becoming more independent. And hopefully, like as you know, as a captain in our team, hopefully we just get them to become more independent slowly. And maybe it's just small stuff like, hey, can you talk to that family that just walked up to our booth, and small stuff like that. Maida, who is our media lead on our team, has just joined and has raised her hand. What would you like to comment on?
I just wanted to say like what I think Lily was saying is very like valid. A big thing of, you know, getting more students to take more leadership tasks is just allowing them to have time to kind of figure out what they want to do on their team. Because like especially with FRC kind of specifically, we have a lot of different things. Like we have a business and we have a build and we have so many different sub teams. And like I know for me, personally, I tried out build for a while and it just didn't really click for me. But as soon as I kind of fell more into business and more into media, I ended up being a lot more willing and wanting to do more things on the team. So it's kind of just a process of kind of letting people find what works for them and what they want to do. And yeah, that's kind of just the key to it, I guess. But I don't know if that was a spitball, but
No, totally. Yeah, that's kind of the goal with all our sub teams and all our meetings is trying to get these incoming people or people that already are technically in our team, but maybe they just don't show up as much. Is that if they're not finding something that clicks with them, is that they have all these options and they have all these leads and all these peers that are able to encourage them to try out different things like, oh, hey, you're in open room all the time and you're doing your robot for mini trials. You want to stay for Meta's media meeting at Thursday, 7 o'clock is when I think it is. It's stuff like that because it's really about participation within the team and being around your peers and finding it a safe space and opening atmosphere. Yes, Ellie.
Our team is like heavily student run, but one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of students are just scared to kind of take that step to do any type of that leadership role. So being able to just be like, no, you got this. I believe in you. You're going to do great. You're going to kill it. And we try to have a mentor lead on all of our events. So we have a student lead and a mentor lead. So that way there is a mentor there to support the student and they're not just like blindly doing it because planning a, I don't know, spaghetti dinner is kind of hard to do on your own when you've never done it before. So making, or even just like reaching out to the city and being like, hey, we'd love to be at the 4th of July celebration and making sure they have that adult there that they can lean on and kind of have that support as well, but also kind of be the biggest cheerleader for our students that we can be to kind of be like, no, you got this. Like, you're going to do great because kind of with what some of you guys were saying that it's scary to like step up and be like, yeah, I'll do it. Cause you don't want to fail. You don't want to disappoint anybody, but kind of creating that environment where it's like, no, if you fail, we'll fail together and we'll make it work and we'll adapt and that's okay. And just making sure that everyone is like, no, you got this and willing to try new things and step out and knowing that even if they do fall down, the team will be there to pick each other up.
Yeah, totally. And I think Manda, you also wanted to say something off of that.
I'm so sorry. This is just another kind of like thing. I think this all just connects back to kind of a big reason people don't really want to do as many leadership tasks, just kind of because they're scared. Like I know the first event I leaded was called Bots for Tots. It's something we do every December. We take toy donations. We show off our robot at our local mall. It's a lot of fun. But I remember when we were setting up, I think all of the students were there. We were like supposed to set up the robot or something, but I had literally everything was set up. Everyone was there. Everyone was waiting. They're like, why haven't we started? And then I was like, oh, wait, I forgot to call in a mentor to drive our trailer. So everyone was just there and we didn't have a mentor to drive our trailer. And we were just like, okay, so what do we do now? So we had to like reschedule and call a mentor. And it's just like little things that you know you maybe don't know at first, which are probably the like scariest things to do, that can be pretty daunting, but also like just kind of like holding someone's hand while they're doing it, I guess. Like a great example, our fundraising lead Charlotte was working with one of our students like I think a few days ago just with our robots on rotini event, and they were both doing a really great job because obviously it was his first time and he was asking questions and she was just being like a guide. Like it's just kind of being patient and showing someone how to do it. Oh, drop my phone. That gives people a lot more confidence. So I think that's just the more important part is having really good support and like it's okay if things don't go the right way.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good example. And I think the whole point of someone being incoming and newer to our team, or maybe already technically on there, but wanting to participate more, is that they are able to be comfortable enough to reach out and have someone guide them and be their helping hand. And even if they don't want that, even if they think they don't need one, to at least offer, because yeah, like Maida said, it's really the little things that can make or break something that you're leading, an event that you're leading. And sometimes these events can be bigger than our like team builders with our peers. So yeah, Maida was completely right. As long as there's like a guide and helping hand, that person feels comfortable enough to and have more confidence to say, yeah, I can lead this event. I think Maida has one more point, and then I think Scott has maybe has something to say. Yeah, Maida. Okay. Scott, can you go ahead and?
I'm so sorry, my mic stopped working.
Okay.
Okay, but I didn't have anything to say. I'm here, I promise. I was just like, I couldn't get plus on the screen. Anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I've been hesitant to jump in because the conversation is so great, but we are about almost 15 minutes, 12, 15 minutes over time. So I don't want to cut you off, but if there's an opportunity to wrap things up, I think it would be good to do that soon-ish.
Yep. Okay. I think on behalf of like Talon, the people here, and just our team, this has been an amazing conversation from all sides, and all possible conversations that we could have had, I think have been had, and they've been great insight, at least to me. And I'm sure other team members can agree. So I just want to say thank you for, letting us lead this. I think we've learned a great deal on all sides. Yeah.
We definitely have a few new things to try out on our own as well.
Mm-hmm. Riley, if you want to say something. All right. I guess we can say goodbye then.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Big applause and thank yous to Talon for giving this session. You guys, it's not your first time leading a great session. Certainly was a very good one. And having said that, I do not believe anyone is signed up to give a talk next week. So if anyone is interested in giving a talk next week, I'd really appreciate if you'd sign up. It'd be great if a team wants to do a get to know our team thing like No Mythic did last week. So if anyone's interested in doing that, feel free to please sign up. The link to do that, you can find that on team2052.com/roundtable. You can also sign up for the mailing list. If you're already on the mailing list, every time I send out an email saying upcoming roundtable, there's always a link in there to sign up for a topic. So if you're wondering, where do I sign up? How do I do that? Those are a couple of different places that you can go to do that. All right. Once again, thank you very much. And I hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.